Hey, is this Rodney?
This is Rodney.
Hey, this is Garrett with the Smoky Mountain News. How are you today?
I'm okay. How are you?
Good, good. I thank you for giving me some of your time today.
That's okay. I'm going to help.
Well, we're doing an article to preview Merlefest coming up in April, and so this is what the interview is going to serve for. But I wanted to preface our conversation with, I was actually looking through some of my files, and it was actually 10 years ago this week when I interviewed you. Obviously, you wouldn't remember that. You do a lot of interviews. But I was looking through the files, and it was kind of interesting. I interviewed you at the Trap Bar in Driggs, Idaho. Well, actually, it's Alta, Wyoming, if you remember that place. Grand Targhee.
Yeah, in Griggs, right?
Yeah. So it was funny because... sorry, as you were saying?
No, I do remember. I remember the wood paneling in that bar/restaurant.
Well, it was funny.
I also remember.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Well, it was funny because when I was looking through my files, I was like, man, I wonder. I was trying to remember when that was, and it was 10 years ago, like yesterday.
Oh man.
So I was like, man, where did the time go?
Yeah, well, I don't want to think, about where I'll be in 10 years from now. Well, try to slow it down and just be right here, right now.
Yeah, I was seeing that interview you had done recently with, I guess within the last year with CBS. I was curious about if you subscribe to the idea of the now, and if you do, how do you embrace that mentality?
Oh, well, the now, I was forced into a work stoppage by some health issues. I haven't performed since last August. So dealing with it has really demanded that I remain firmly planted in right now.
Yeah.
Because there's no, there is, which has actually been a good lesson for me. I mean, I've always subscribed to it, and I've taken sort of more or less a Zen approach to how I get through the day. But, this has been like, okay, time to put your money where your mouth is, pal. So yeah, I certainly subscribe to right now, and I'm consciously trying to more consciously live in the now.
So I guess that also...
I don't know if it'll slow the next 10 years down anymore, but perhaps it will.
Well, I guess that would also... Maybe one could surmise that you embrace the idea of, I guess, letting go, like being vulnerable to the cosmos kind of thing.
Well, I don't feel vulnerable to the cosmos.
Like in a good way, like a good vulnerable, like you're letting things in and leaving yourself open to maybe inspiration or interactions.
Well, yeah, I think when I put my trust fully in the cosmos, I know that I'm protected, and I know that I'm healthy, and I know that inspiration is there, and the cosmos, the universe, the mind of God, or whatever you want to put it in, is pretty vast and pretty limitless. And I in my best days, I avail myself of that as fully as I can.
Yeah. When I was looking through that file from the Trap Bar, you had started the show with a statement where you had said, I know where I'm going to start, but where it ends, we'll figure it out together. and I've thought about that line over the years, the idea of applying that to, we all know where the starting line is, but no one knows where it's going to finish, for good or ill, but hopefully good.
Yeah.
For someone like yourself who's had such a varied, wide-ranging career, and in many aspects very successful career, how do you measure success these days in terms of not only your art, but also I guess maybe even your day-to-day life?
these days I measure success by how well I accomplish a very simple thing, which is to live this day innocently. And by innocently, what I mean is, with the freedom of a child, playing, which doesn't preclude, the adult responsibilities I have, but just to live, to get up, work on something I'm writing, prose-wise, and to enjoy that and not get into any kind of huff about how well it's going, and to work on songs and play, rehearse with my trio, and have dinner with my wife, and talk to my friends, do whatever I do with the least amount of self-consciousness. And by self-consciousness, I'm referring to like fear of how I'm going to look or how I'm going to come across or what somebody thinks of me. Is like, who really, what does that really serve? The only thing, the being in this, we're talking about the now, being in this moment and just being fully in the moment precludes being afraid of how something is going to turn out, or whether somebody likes me, or whether I'm as cool as Blake Mills or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I would say too that I would think one of the long-term or lifelong goals of an artist and a songwriter is to either not lose the childlike wonder, but also keep chasing to retain it as you get older. Well,
my take on that is the devotion you give to your work.
Yeah.
And I mean, without, the kind of devotion you give to your work without having an ego attachment to it.
Yeah.
Which is, what is this going to get me? What is this going to do for me? How is this going to elevate me? Anywhere, anyhow, anyway. And for it to come down to something more simple than that, which is, man, how good is this today?
Yeah.
Wow, I just came up with a really great sequence of words that really works for what I'm doing. This is good. And that is, to me, that's where I am, and that comes with age as well, and experience. It's, to distill it down to the singular sensibility, which is, man, how good am I at this now? Not for approval of a reviewer or something, but for my own relationship with myself.
It's got to be a very liberating feeling.
At times it is, and then other times, it's like other times I fail. But was it Auden, W.H. Auden that said, fail better?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's Auden, it's one of those guys, one of those poets like Auden. I would say it was him, fail better. First time I heard that, I said, yeah, I've been doing that for a long time.
Was there a moment when you knew a song could be whatever it wanted to be?
Pretty early. I was lucky in my development as a songwriter. Probably the most vulnerable chapter in my development as a songwriter. I happen to be, as luck would have it, I happen to be in pretty close daily contact with Guy Clark and often Townes Van Zandt. And I was, 9-10 years younger than them. So all I had to do was be quiet, pay attention. And I realized that in the craft of songwriting, the way I call the poets, the way the poets go about their work, which is very rarely from a commercial angle.
Yeah.
That, if you're patient enough and allow it, the song will tell you what it wants to be, what it should be.
And you need to serve the song rather than trying to fit it into whatever you think it should fit into.
Yeah, because to me, when you start doing that, the cart is definitely before the horse.
Yeah. Now, if you mind me asking, when was the last time you saw or spoke with Guy before he passed?
The day he passed.
You were with him?
Yes.
What was the last thing that you, if you mind me asking again, what was the last thing you guys had talked about?
Well, the last thing he said to me was, "I'm tired."
Oh.
I mean, he said it cosmically.
Yeah.
I'm tired. And
almost like a well-earned exhaustion, probably, right?
Guy was always a really great sleeper. He could sleep anywhere, and he was sleep long. He'd stay up. He could stay up longer than anybody. But when he finally went to sleep, he would sleep longer than anybody. And it was the last day of his life, and there was a room full of people clattering around, and I was helping with the hospice stuff, and I kind of leaned in close, and he just said, "I'm tired." And that was the last thing he said to me.
How has your reflection been on him since his passing, as a friend and also an artist?
Well, I always had Guy perfectly framed as an artist for me. I could separate the friend from the artist, and understood the supreme value that he brought as a self-editor and as an unflinching his unflinching adherence to the truth.
Yeah.
Or as close to the truth as you can get it.
Well, as you were saying, sorry.
But there's the other side of it, which is, is my friend,
Yeah.
Lost a friend that, I often, I was at my daughter's house last night, and she has a picture of Guy and I when we were younger on her refrigerator. And to see that, I was like, oh, shit, man. That was, that's over. That kind of thing.
Speaking of when you guys were younger, when was the last time that you've watched Heart-Worn Highways?
I've never watched it.
You've never watched it?
Never. That's the truth. I have 2 copies of it, but I've never watched it.
Well, I was thinking about that iconic scene of Christmas Eve with you and Guy and Steve Earle and everyone else in that room.
I'm pretty sure Richard Dobson must have been in that room.
Yeah.
I never watched it because I had taken a particular drug that night that I never wanted to see myself under the influence of again, and that's the truth. Guy always told me, he said, "Well, man," he said, "just roll it to Towns' part." And he said, you need to see Towns, I said, okay, but I just never, maybe I will. Maybe I'll come out of my own weird sense of my, I can't believe I was there, and see it for what it is, because a lot of people, seem to be moved by that film.